Good morning, friends. On this last day and the fourth day of our webinar series on bank branch audit. Now we are going to play ICAI motto song. I request all participants to put their right hand on their hearts. Friends, it is said that if you are surrounded by bubble tree, then definitely you will find it like a jungle. Or I can say no one can prosper. But if you are in the shade of sandal tree, then you will definitely find it like a heaven. And we all are experiencing the same in this lockdown, where our dynamic chairman has unlocked all of us through these webinar series. I now request our chairman, CA Fenil Shah, to give his opening remarks. CA Fenil Shah, branch chairman, Ahmedabad. Thank you.
Thank you, Vishen Bhai. The speaker of the day and the last session of this webinar on bank branch audit, CA Kuntal Shah, whom I generally call as Kuntal Bhai, Regional Council member, CA Hitesh Pomal, the chairman of Jamnagar branch, Dipesh Booth, various other branch chairmen and branches present here, CA Vinay Sakaria, Rajkot branch, CA Bhavesh Thakkar, Anand branch, CA Manoj Goyal, Bhavnagar branch, CA Jitendra Thakkar, Bhuj branch, CA Karan Thakkar, Gandhidham branch, and of branch, Ahmedabad branch, CA Vishen Thakkar. I welcome you all to this last day of the bank branch audit series, webinar series. Friends, again, every day I'm requesting you to please generously donate to our ICA COVID fund so that we can fulfill the appeal made by our President sir of contributing 21 crores to PM Care Fund. Second, friends, we appeal all the members of Gujarat branches and Ahmedabad that we request you that please download the Arogya Setu app of Government of India, because government has also appealed, because that is the right source of getting very appropriate information in this pandemic situation. Also, it keeps you making aware of various risks which are nearby to you. It also provides a facility of self-evaluation, and also help desk numbers are present. So we being the intellectual crowd, the responsible members and citizens of India, we should always be the helping hand, and the very first step of being a helping hand to government of India in this pandemic situation is to download this app. So I request you all to download this app in your mobile. Plus, friends, tomorrow we are having a very important session. Right now in this pandemic situation and economic crisis, we all are worried about our investments. So tomorrow we are going to have a session by very renowned speaker Sandeep Sadharwal, who is a SEBI registered investment advisor from Mumbai, to address us on how we can protect our wealth in this economic crisis and this pandemic situation from 1:30 to 2:30. So I request you all to take the benefit of that too. And at the outset, being the last day, I would like to thank Hitesh Pomalji for creating this whole webinar series. And also we are now to end up with the same. So thank you, Hitesh Bhai, for having this awesome webinar series, and also coordinating in the WhatsApp group in getting all the doubts of the members redressed in a very effective manner. So lastly, before I end, I would again welcome Kuntal Bhai, whom if I'm having a touch with him since I was a student working in Vikasa, when he was working in Vikasa as a mentor, and I can say that he's an ocean of knowledge, so down to earth person, always there ready to guide everyone techno-savvy person and always also serving for students too. So again, I welcome you, Kuntal bhai, to this seminar, and now I request Hitesh Pomal sir to address and give the initial remarks. Hitesh Pomal sir.
Very good morning, all, and I fully agree with Fenil Bhai that he is such a simple and a down-to-earth person. I will share one my last telephonic conversation with Kuntal Bhai, that he was stuck up at the Anand before this lockdown, and he had the connectivity issues and all. And since we all know that he is such a renowned speaker, that every branches, religiously every branches of the ICI, they are calling for sharing his knowledge on this CPS environment and his experience with the banks in the various capacity. But immediately in the return call, he told me that it has been, I will arrange everything, and we can arrange the program for the Ahmedabad and the 6 branches of the Gujarat. It is my responsibility that I should share my knowledge on this subject with our branches at the Gujarat. That is very important. And I am extremely thankful to you, Kuntal Bhai, for accepting our request actually. And I welcome you for this last and fourth subject, and that is equally crucial and important for the bank branch audit, that how to conduct the audit under the CBS environment. I welcome you, and I thank you on behalf of Ahmedabad branch as well as the all branches who are participating in this webinar series. Welcome, sir. Thank you. Over to Vishan Bhai, please.
I request Chairman of Jamnagar branch, Mr. C.A. Bull sir, to please introduce today's learned faculty.
Thank you, sir. Now we have renowned faculty C.A. Kuntal Shah. He is a fellow member of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, practicing chartered accountants and partners in Pradeep R. Shah and Company, practicing in the field of audit, income tax, GST, FEMA, and company laws. He is a secured A plus grade diploma in computer program CDAS SC course. He is a part of panel of author of guidance not on audit of banks 2020, 2019, 2020, 17 edition by Auditing Student Standard Board of India. Board ICI, co-author of Manual of Concurrent Audit Bank published by the Internal Audit Standard Board ICI, written comprehensive chapter on core banking system, co-author of Early Warnings Signal of Fraud through Credit Weakness, published by Committee of Information Technology ICI, author of Note on Review of Demonetization Activity by Chartered Accountants in Banks, published by Internal Audit Standard Board ICI, article on audit of foreign exchange transaction in Treasury Bank branch audit, published by EIRC in Bank Audit Referencer for year 2015-16. Article on audit of foreign exchange transactions Treasury Bank branch audit, published by WIRC in Bank branch seminar booklets for the year 2013-14 and 14-15. He is presented at presentation at the seminar organized by IC and other professional bodies. That's all from my side. Now I over to Mr. Vishan Bhai sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman sir. Now I request Kuntal Bhai, C. Kuntal Shah, to deliberate on the topic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning to everyone. I'll just request to ensure that all the videos and microphones are switched off. Otherwise, there will be an issue with the voice of mine. In between the time, I might ping one of you to ensure that the connectivity is proper, or is there any issue or not. At that point of time, you can just help me out.
If there is any issue, I will come directly. So you just carry on with your presentation. If anything will be there, will come directly. No worries.
And there will be question answer as well, right? So I'll spare that much time. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Or if you want to extend little bit, 10 or 15 minutes, then there will be no issue, sir.
My presentation will be of around 1 hour 25 minutes. Let's try that we'll have 5 minutes plus there will be 15 minutes more for question answer.
No problem.
Rest of the part of the presentation is for background material only. I'll just glance it through, but the deliberation will be on two parts which are very crucial ones. Right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Good morning to everyone. Hope you all are keeping yourself safe and maintaining the mandatory distances. That is very much required. The first time we found that divided we can be safe, rather than united we'll be safe. We are going to discuss today on to CBS environment part under the bank audit. Everywhere we find a lot of issues into the bank audit. Everyone says that there is an issue in the CBS itself or some parameterization, and that's how there are issues that have been cropped up. I have selected few focus areas of one is NP identification, one is revenue leakage, one is foreign exchange transaction, and other is the office account. Now, CBS related issues into these parts have been discussed into this presentation. So these are the focus areas. My presentation won't have much of on a regulatory side. It will only have references to the system side only. We'll have a question answer session as well at the end. I'll also share few of the case studies that few of the observations that I observed during my auditing experience. Names of the bank or the borrowers or anything won't be there. Everything is masked and the numbers have also been changed. Case studies are only for the understanding purposes and not for divulging any of the insider information. Since I'm an auditor like you, I start with my disclaimer. These are my personal views and need not to be construed with the views of ICAI, Regional Council branch, or of my firm. It should not be considered as in professional advice, and this presentation should not be reproduced in part or whole without written permission. These are the few CBS software used in India and world over. Predominantly in number of banks, you can find that the Finacle is used. The other one is TCS banks, and the third one is the FlexCube. Finacle is currently having two versions, active versions, that is Finacle 7 and Finacle 10. Though the software is by Infosys or ETSO, that's the 100% subsidiary of Infosys, there is a vast difference into both the architecture. However, the menu codes have undergone a minor change in most of the cases. However, there are various menu codes where, or the areas where there is a complete change in the manner in which the access and the updation of information is carried out. Other systems are Alnova Financial Solution, SAP Banking Services, not used in India but other parts of the world. Before starting, I would like to share an important update, and this is very important in terms of bank audit. The circular, or I can say that clarification, is issued by RBI applicable to UCBs. However, this clarification is more or less the same. That is what is auditors are also seeking for the public sector banks and private sector banks. Let's first have a background onto that side. Now, what is happening is a lot of banks are saying that we are identifying NPAs on monthly basis or weekly basis or quarterly basis, or when the balance sheet occurs. A balance sheet is required to be prepared. Now, the problem lies with the IRX circular, where one of the place it is mentioned that the bank should ensure identification of NPA account on timely basis. Now, word timely is not properly meant. It gives rise to a lot of explanation issues. So banks used to say us that it is like this or that and kind of a thing. Whereas the issue is always there. Auditors used to say that it has to be marked immediately. That is, once the 90 days is completed, it is to be marked as an NPA. Now, the problem was it was not mentioned anywhere. Now, this year, RBI issued this clarification to UCB. UCB also having the same IRSC circular, only except 2 or 3 changes. Otherwise, it's a complete copy paste of the normal IRX circular that we, or master circular we are referring to. So this clarification will go a long way. Reason being, there are instances wherein, let's say in the month of January, let's say on the 2nd day of January, the 90 days, that is 91st day overdue is there. Now, instead of identifying that account as NPA on 2nd of January, banks used to say that they'll be marking at 31st January or 31st March, that is month and the quarter end. Now, what used to happen that before that identification date, the borrower used to deposit some of the amount, whereby the overdue balance would go below 90 days. So let's say 88-day overdue. Now that account will not be classified as NPA even though it had crossed once more than 90 days. Now the situation gives rise to only payment of those overdue when there is a date of the NPA, and that's how the correct identification was not getting carried out. Secondly, what used to happen is that in case of IRAC guideline, it is categorically mentioned that once there is an account is turned into an NPA, it can be upgraded only when the entire overdue is collected. Now this also actually bankers used to say that only critical overdue is required to be collected, even though there have been various banks wherein they have collected only few upper amount of overdue out of total overdue, and the account kept as overdue for 88 days or 89 days and said that this account should be upgraded from NPA. But this is not a correct practice. If an account is required to be upgraded, on the date of upgradation entire overdue must have been collected, and that is clear guideline. So now these are the two clarifications that issued by RBI, and we should be using this. Now third point, that is also because since last so many days I am into the web sessions of various branches across India. Now a lot of members have asked repeatedly that what is to be done on to the post March recovery. Now if you ask me my personal opinion, I would say that it cannot be considered. The reason being, you are certifying or you are auditing balances up to 31st of March, and that's what you need to carry out. Few of the members placed a counter question stating that can we have this particular aspect of post balance sheet recovery as events occurring after balance sheet date. Friends, it is not an event occurring after balance sheet date, so don't extrapolate that item into this. If assuming that if you want to extrapolate that and want to help the bank or whichever way you want, that saving an account turning into an NPA, then you need to also see the other side of the coin, wherein you need to mark an account turning into NPA till the time you are signing the balance sheet. Meaning thereby, let's say you are signing the balance sheet up to 30th of April, then you need to also see to it that all the NPA accounts turning into NPA up to 30th of April are also required to be classified as NPA. Now that is not going to happen. There has to have an end to this, and in my opinion, nothing can be done to the post recovery. And there was one classic case, I won't be naming the borrower. There was a fight between the auditors and the management onto this particular aspect, whereas the account exposure was huge exposure. It's a very noted company. In that scenario, as on 31st of March, 91 days happened. The person remitted the money on 1st or 2nd of April through RTGS or something. First was probably closed, and that's how the fund came into on 2nd. Now the bank said that you need to accept that part, and you need to give due credit to this one. However, the auditors clearly said that RBI has categorically mentioned that if anything is above 90 days, it is required to be classified as NPA. And in that scenario, auditor stood to his ground. However, the matter went to Reserve Bank of India as a complaint against auditor, but the stand of auditor was actually correct. What has happened post to that, that's not part of media reports. So whatever I have stated, that is all media reports. So please carry out audit with those guidelines on a very clarificatory nature, and you can make use of these one when you are going for an auditing. Let's start with our presentation. Since it was an important one, I thought to share before with only. Today we'll be discussing on parameters affecting NPA identification and case studies. Other parts of the presentation, that is identification, revenue leakage, foreign exchange transaction, office account, audit activity through CBS, that is LFAR and tax audit requirements for reference material purpose. I already shared my material with Bishan Bhai. He'll be in a process to upload, or probably he might have uploaded or shared with everyone. In case someone has not received it, you can talk to Ahmedabad branch, or once the session is over, we'll discuss the mode through which the presentation will be shared. Now, along with the presentation, I have shared my another presentation, which is a more detailed one to understand the system, two systems, that is Finacle and TCS banks. That particular background material also includes one of the portion, that is a detailed write-up on Finacle 7, Finacle 10, TCS banks, and FlexCube, all the systems, and duly arranged one with all the requirement of auditing. The material is about 118-120 pages. and I hope it will be very useful to everyone when they are going for an auditing. Let's start with first one. In terms of directives issued by Ministry of Finance and Reserve Bank of India, it is mandatory for banks to identify the bad loans through CBS system instead of conventional method. Now, gone are the days wherein the banks used to identify the account as NPA through manual mode or some other outside system or something. MOF, when RBI has categorically stated that no, you need to classify the account as the account as NPA through CBS only. Meaning, thereby, what used to happen earlier was there used to be extract the information or the data, relevant data were getting extracted from the system, that is transaction system, to the other system which used to identify the account as NPA. Now, in that scenario, a certain set of parameters issued mandated through IRX circular were not getting fulfilled. In that scenario, what used to happen was the accounts were not getting classified properly. Now, as you all are aware, CBS is like other software which works on GIGO principle, that is garbage in, garbage out. You can't expect a magic out of a system when the garbage is thrown into it. So in that scenario, we need to understand that master data play an important role in correct identification of bad loans. So a small error into the master data will have a catastrophic impact on NPA identification. Let's take a normal example. Forget about NPA or anything. There is a small child, a boy, whose account is getting opened as a minor account is getting opened into the bank. Now, at the time of opening of an account, banker had made a mistake. Instead of mentioning in gender as boy, the person is mentioned it as girl. Now, it's not a financial error. It's not a financial master, and hence it is not going to create any impact onto a financial transaction. However, since there is an issue with the gender mentioned as girl, now this boy can also open an account under Sukanya Samriddhi scheme, which is only applicable to girl. Now, understand the cobweb. There are various validations available through various masters. So now, even for a small error, there will be a catastrophic impact on other side. There can be an issue with the reporting the sectorial classification wise. There are plenty. So in this particular presentation, what we'll be focusing more on to the masters, the events which can affect NPA identification, and where we need to be very sure into because of certain changes or the regulatory guidelines changes that might affect the NPA identification. So with that, let's start with the first point: discrepancies in setting up of EMI. You can do one thing. You can keep a pen and paper with you. I'll be discussing few of the masters which are required to be verified by the auditors when they go into the bank branch. Now, reason being is if you have properly categorized or kept everything ready, and for each account, if you are verifying all the masters that are vital masters which may affect the NPA identification, then at least that will solve your purpose. Plus, it will have a proper audit working paper, and you can categorically focus on to certain set of accounts only, rather than seaming across or finding all the verifying all the account again and again. Now, first, let's understand what is this point is all about. I'll be giving example for all the points, so we'll understand that, and then we'll understand the primary checks and the system support. Now, let's take an example that first the issue is like this way, that the sanction letter or the system which is deployed by the banks to sanction the loans are not the CBS. The systems are not generally connected to the CBS, meaning in that scenario, what is happening is the sanction letter that is coming out from these systems are required to be punched into the system. Now, there have been instances wherein the issue into the updation of system. Now, assuming that there is a borrower whose sanction letter says that 25,000 is your installment amount, monthly installment amount, whereas in system it was updated as 15,000 with the extended period of loan. Now, everything is set up into the system. Now, assuming that 1st of April or 2nd of April is the due date, that is first day of the month is the due date, starting with the 1st of April. Now, on 1st of April, the system will say that 15,000 amount is due. As against that, the borrower will be making payment of 25,000 rupees. Same way it goes, meaning there is a 10,000 rupees overflow. In the month of May and June also, there will be a 10,000 15,000, meaning thereby as on 30th of June, there will be an overflow amount of 30,000 rupees. Now the borrower has stopped making payment from July onwards. That is, July also he has not paid. So system will ask the system will say that 15,000 is due. As against that, you have 30,000 rupees overflow amount. So that will be netted off, and then at the end of the July, there will be 15,000 rupees overflow amount. Again in August, not paid, 15,000 is knocked off, nil is the balance. As on 30th of September, the balance is 15,000 rupees overdue. Now system will not be classifying this account as NPA because it is only a 30-day, 31-day overdue. It is not more than that. As against that, actual case is that the 3 installments have not been paid, that is more than 91 days overdue, and hence the account should have been classified as NPA. So first and the foremost point is this: whether the EMI amount is correctly set up, whether all the EMI related information is matching with the sanction term, whether periodicity of installment is correctly classified or not. It may so happen that the periodicity of installment is mentioned in sanction letter as monthly, whereas in system it is updated as quarterly. So please check that everything all onto that EMI related or the installment related things are properly updated. Now, what are the system supports that are available? In Finacle, you can go to ACI and option E for the repayment detail. Finacle 10, you can go to HACM. In TCS banks, there are two setup, that is DLTL account service and ODCC accounts. And you can go to inquire an account, that is again an account master. In both the DLTL and ODCC, there is a short and long inquiry options available, and you can use those options. Now, short inquiry means there will be a minimal information displayed onto the screen, whereas long inquiry means there will be a detailed masters that will be displayed onto the screen. Then comes the multiple set of EMIs or the installment. There have been instances wherein there are schemes, loan schemes, wherein there will be a change in the EMI post to certain period. Now it goes with a premise that your income is not going to be a static one, and hence there should not be a static EMI. After few years of repayment, your EMI should also increase, thereby you can reduce the tenor of loan. Now what has happened was, in few of the cases we have observed that in a particular branch, there was few set of accounts wherein EMI was set up in this way. That first set, that is for 5 years, the EMI was set up as 5,000, and from 6th year onwards, that is the second set, it was 1 lakh rupees. Now it is not feasible or not possible that a person who would be making payment of 5,000 on a monthly basis would start making payment of 1 lakh immediately from the sixth year onwards. Whereas when we saw the sanction letter, it was some about 25,000 or 30,000 was the set that was mentioned. Now it was a clear case wherein there won't be an NPA into that account even when the borrower is not irregular in making repayment of the loan. Now what has actually happened was, what we generally do is we do not verify the overflow cases, assuming that the borrower might have paid in excess. However, we need to first understand what is due from the borrower and what he has paid, whether the amount that is due is correctly set up or not. Overflow comes up at the second stage. If an amount due itself is not correctly mentioned or updated into the system, there will be a wrong result into the second stage. So in those scenarios as well, now we have started including verification of those cases as well, where there is an overflow amount. There may be instances, we don't want to doubt the borrowers. However, there may be some instances wherein borrower might have actually paid in excess. However, in other cases also we need to have an audit verification. Simply do not take them out of a sample. Same set of system support is available into this one. Then comes a bit technical one, system determined asset classification vis-a-vis user defined asset classification. Now there have been instances wherein users have the overriding power to the system. For that, we need to first understand what is the system. Now, system of NPA identification and auto marking are differently set up into different banks. Now, there are few systems wherein the auto identification as well as auto marking is carried out by the system. There are few systems wherein the system only identifies the account as NPA, whereas the final authority is with the user. Now, in that scenario, it gives rise to a situation wherein system says that account is NPA, but the user has said, no, it is a performing asset only, or user has not changed the asset classification. Now we need to understand. See, that's very few number of banks wherein they have an auto marking as well without the manual intervention. There is a reason to it as well. Reason being, there are a lot of issues in the masters, and that's how there are various incorrect accounts getting classified as an NPA, as well as there are a few cases wherein there are some recoveries that are expected but could not happen, and the user would like to stay it on for a long. Whichever may be the reason, we need to understand first what is the system. Secondly, if we are not in a position to get the information from the branch side, we need to contact center statutory auditor who would be guiding us what's the system, and where is there any manual intervention into it. If there is no manual intervention, you can design your audit process accordingly. If there is a manual intervention, you need to increase the sample size. Now, what are the primary checks as an auditor? CBS contain two set of parameters. At first instance, CBS identify the account as identify the account based on the set parameters under asset classification type, and secondly, there will be a script that will be run through once the user confirms that one. Now, there are few cases wherein the report is available in TCS banks as well as in Finacle, wherein difference between the two classifications are reported. However, it is not a structured report, or that is not available in general software part. It is generally a customized report for each bank. So first and foremost thing, we need to just see to it on the daily report folder that will be available in all the banks, that on a network folder there will be a daily report that will be push reports. Now those reports may contain such kind of report, maybe at the month end or a quarter end, and we need to get hold of that report. And through an on-screen menu, you can verify in Finacle through ACM ACI option, and option is Y, that is asset classification inquiry. Now that will show you two bifurcations, that is system determined classification as well as user defined classification. Now it may so happen that if the final script is run by the user, then the user defined classification will the system determined classification will be replaced with the user defined, and you may not find any difference between the two, but you can keep this menu option for your reference purpose, and you can seek this report from branches. Need not necessary that these reports, this kind of report will be available for all the banks. However, we can try and we can just discuss this matter with branch management as well as auditors. Then comes the case of a manipulation in sanction limit or a drawing power. Now there have been various instances. If you refer to IRA guideline, there is a guideline for classification of account as out of order under an OD or a CC mode, which is an operative account, wherein there is an credit is insufficient or not sufficient enough to cover the debits or the interest debit. Now in that scenario, what happens that the account was either overdrawing or it's not having proper credit amount. Now let's take a first case scenario of wherein there is a limit of 1 lakh of rupees into the account, and the customer is already overdrawing with, let's say, 1,15,000 rupees maximum amount. Now 89 days have happened, and account is now going to be marked as NPA. Now if someone changes the sanction limit or a DP to 1,25,000 rupees, then what will happen is the account balance, that is overdue or total account debit balance, will be well within the limit, and hence there won't be any overdrawal portion or overdrawal amount into those this scenario. In that case, what will happen is the account will not be marked as NPA, assuming that after 2-3 days this extended limit, that is 1,25,000, is restored back to 1 lakh. Then whatever is the overdue amount, the entire counter will be started with once again, that is day one. Please check any kind of such manipulation into sanction limit or a drawing power. The menu codes that are available into Finacle is ACLHM, that is account limit history maintenance, within which you have two options, that is sanction limit and a drawing power. Now this is only an account specific command, so you can't use this as an report through various parameters. So what you can do is you can select some sample and you can check this one. So this also you can include it along with the masters that we are maintaining, and into that you can just check this one. Now I would like to say that in case of a DP, there will be a change on monthly basis based on stock statement and book dates. So there will be an entry on monthly basis into the drawing power side. So ensure that you just check the cases wherein there is a change in SL or DP, that is manual changes. in addition to what the changes that are driving through stock statement or book debt statement. In TCS Bank, there is a tailor-made report on changes in account limit, generally available on daily basis on a daily report folder. So we can refer that report as well. Then comes the moratorium period. The loans with moratorium in repayment or interest moratorium or an installment moratorium or a general moratorium period. Now we need to ensure that the moratorium period mentioned into the sanction letter is matching with the moratorium updated into the CBS. Now this is very important. Let's take an example first. The customer got a loan sanction and disbursement as well. The moratorium is till 1st of July 2020. Now, instead of updating 1st of July 2020 into the system, the moratorium period or the installment start date was mentioned as 1st of July 2021. Now, in that scenario, what will happen is that borrower will be making payment of installments from July onwards, assuming that he has paid for July, August, September, whereas the system says that nothing is due, meaning thereby entire amount that is paid will go into the overflow position. From October, November, December, January, February, March, nothing has been paid by the borrower, even though the account will not be classified as an NPA. Reason being, the setup is not properly done. In that scenario, we need to check that moratorium period, if entered, specifically whether the same is mentioned properly. There are two link points which we'll be discussing in after 1 or 2 slides. That will be installment start date, that is principal portion, and interest demand date, that is the interest portion, right? So whether those are also correctly set up or not, we'll check that once we'll be onto that slide. In TCS Bank, we need to go through the account master details as we have discussed earlier, ODCC, DLTL, inquiry and account. So that will give you the account master long inquiry. This is very tricky, specifically this year for this year. Refacement or reschedulement or restructuring without reporting as restructuring. Now restructuring means any change into the EMI, any change or extension into the loan, any benefit that is passed on through the changing the rate of interest. Now all this falls under restructuring guideline. Now restructuring in general guideline refers to downgrading of an account, that is 1 notch down, whatever is the asset classification, 1 notch down to that case. However, this year and as well as the last year, we have few one-time restructuring available to MSMEs. In this year, you have an added issue of COVID-19 moratorium given. Now moratorium, that is the customers who have availed that moratorium facility, whose this loan will also get extended towards that for 3 months, and hence you will find a lot of entries into the refacement or reschedulement this year. Now to cull out information that which are for COVID-19 cases, which are for MSME one time, and which are the other restructuring which requires downgrading, and whether downgrading is carried out or not is going to be an Herculean task this time. Because what happens is many of the time it has been observed that the restructuring is carried out but not reported as restructuring, meaning thereby the borrower still enjoys the same asset classification, which is not permitted under IRAC guideline. So at times it is observed that the loan installments are rephased, recalibrated without reporting the same as reschedulement or a restructuring. Now system support that is available is ACI option E, that is repayment details. Same is TCS banks, or there are a few of the banks which are generating report that containing all the cases wherein EMI installment is changed, that is there in various banks. Now otherwise through this this is very difficult to be reported. What I would suggest is you can seek information from branch through a MR letter as well. Once you get an MR letter, get a confirmation from the or seek a report stating that all the changes made into the loan, interest, as well as that is EMI amount, loan expiry period, expiry date, and interest should provide us the report stating that we would like to verify restructuring cases. Now most of the time you will find that they will say no to the branch auditor because they won't be generating special report for the branch auditor. However, if possible and if it is feasible, get an email from that they are not in a position to do that. You carry out your activity, that is reviewing on a random basis. Preferably this review should be done onto the existing loan as on 1st of April 2019. Right, so you may have few chances that those old loans got rephased or rescheduled, right? But again, you can't deny the argument that current year loan also can get rescheduled, but the chances of getting rescheduled or for the older loans are high. Yeah, this is the one that I was referring to when we discussed the moratorium. Installment start date is future date. Assuming that the installment is to be started from 1st of July 2020, instead of that into the system, it is updated as 1st of October 2020. Now, what will happen is that July, August, September, there won't be anything amount that is due. Hence, there is no question of overdue. So whatever the borrower will be making payment will be considered as an excess amount only. Now, or that is known as overflow position. So please check into the master what is the installment start date into the system and what is there into the sanction letter. So you can prepare a checklist kind of a thing. Since we have discussed that, we'll have a pen and paper and we can just jot down all these masters. Just select, just mention these into the one of the column or into multiple columns, and then the account numbers, and ensure that you fill up every data therein. So either you can carry out this activity first and then can check the documentation, or you can start verifying the documentation and punch in the figures, and the other person will be verifying into the system whether the details that you have punched in are the same into the system, right? So either way we can be doing that. My only request is, as an auditor, it is high time to recalibrate our audit processes. Gone are the days we can do audit through the conventional methods. We need to now upgrade ourselves. Probably COVID-19 has given us a lot of time. We can once again go through IRX circular as well. I'll give you an exercise if you all would like to do that. I have done that exercise and I found it very useful. Now, what I have done was I have dissected the entire IRAC circular into 4 parts. I have listed out which are the events which trigger an account to be downgraded, meaning thereby how many events are there into the IRX circular that will affect the NPA or that will mark the account as NPA. Same way upgrade, same way asset classification, same way this is on revenue collection as well, and the other important aspect for restructuring. So these 4 parts, I have dissected the entire IRX circular onto this way. Right, then what you need to do is you need to just glance through the RBI website and what are the changes that has happened post to 1st of July 2015. You can just glance through that. That will give you an entire insight into this, because you need to refresh it. Most of the time you don't get time after March, because up to March you are busy with a lot of other work, and immediately you need to start the bank audit. Now this time we have ample amount of time. Even we don't know whether 14th tomorrow there will be a lifting of lockdown, but the signs are not good. It's not happening that way, but let's leave it on to the government how they will be doing it. But if we have got some time, we can do this activity, and I would suggest at least do this activity. It will be a good refresher for everyone. Interest demand date is the future date, as I have discussed that at the time of moratorium as well. Now installment, that is principal or an interest, whether dates are properly updated into the system, and that is what we need to verify at the time of verification of masters. Then comes fictitious credit through office account and interbranch account. These are very tricky cases, and these are in certain cases there are the perennial issues. Things are like this, that in case of an operative account, CC or OD account, the account is within the limit. However, the credits are not sufficient enough to cover the debits, or account is going into an overdraw portion. The account badly needs a credit into this account. The borrower has not deposited anything, and if it continues like that way, that account will be marked as NPA. In that scenario, if an entry originates from an office account or an interbranch account and get a credit to an borrower account, and after few days or the same day rather, if it gets reversed either through an erroneous entry reversal, the system will count this kind of entry as an credit source, and that will consider that no, the account is having sufficient credit source and the account should not be marked as NPA, whereas actually that amount was not from a genuine source of a credit, and hence the system, whatever classification that the system has done is not correct one. Now into that we need to check that. I'll show you a few of the case studies as well, and you will find that these are actual case studies, and you will find that till what level there have been issues that are observed by the auditors, and what we need to do, and why I'm saying again and again that we need to recalibrate our audit processes and planning side. The system support that is available is ACLI. ACLI is a fantastic option, as like you all are using Tally, that is display account ledger, DAL, and once you have opened the ledger you can press enter to go to the voucher entry screen. Into ACLI mention the account number, period for which you want to list the transaction, and then once you go into the transaction, let's say of a credit transaction, just press Ctrl E and up arrow and down arrow, and you'll find debit and the credit transaction. Now that will give you an idea about from where the entry originated. If there is any entry which is immediately a debit entry against the credit entry, review that part as well, where the funds went, and start verifying those things. I'm not saying that you need to do an audit as a forensic auditor, but at least some enhanced vigilance is very much required, and everyone would be agreeing to that as well, because the way in which the cases are coming up from the banking system and the way in which the regulators or the government is pushing the auditors to to ensure proper reporting, we just need to recalibrate the thing, and we can very well enhance the quality further as well. Now ACLI is a command which can be used for ODCC, loan, deposit, savings account, current account, or even an office account as well. So that's only one command that we need to use. Second part is that we need to review the office account ledgers as well. Now select that ledger, few of the ledgers, and review those ledgers as well. Now which are the office account that is mentioned in the later part of the slide, and you can just refer to those office accounts. Now in TCS banks, for customer accounts, you can go to the deposit CCOD account services inquiry transaction and DLTL account services inquiry and transaction. In TCS bank, you cannot explore a transaction. However, you can have a long inquiry onto it. However, if you want detailed information about the debit and credit, there is one report of journal entry that is appearing, or what you can do is you can call for the voucher of the day. In case of a review of office account, one needs to go to the branch general ledger, that is BGL setup into TCS banks, and then inquiries and transactions, so that you can review the transactions from office account transaction from that place. Then comes round tripping from internal accounts. Again, an issue that is going on for a while. Let's take an example of Mr. ABC. A is having a current account, B and C are having an CCOD account with a very low credit turnover, and because of that low credit turnover only, the accounts are going to be marked as NPA. Now an entry is getting originated from Mr. A's account, current account, to Mr. B's account, assuming that rupees 10 lakh of rupees. Now A's account got debited 10 lakh, got credited into B's account, B to C, C to A. Now A won't be speaking anything, because A will be feeling that yes, bank did make a mistake of debiting 10 lakh of rupees, but they immediately rectified it and they recredited back as well. So there is no point or no issue with A. However, with this account of B and C got credit turnover of about 10 lakh of rupees, right? Now in that scenario, the system will consider this part as a credit that is received into the bank account, and hence the system will be may not be marking this account as NPA, considering these entries. Now, however, these entries are not a genuine source of credit, and hence we also need to check into those accounts wherein there is very low credit turnover, or there are low number of even debit transactions. Now a lot of auditors say that sir, there is a command called ATOR, we can make use of that. However, I would always say that do not rely wholly on ATOR or information through CUTI or ACTI. Reason being is such kind of entries would also go into the ATOR computation. Office account transfers or everything will also go into ATOR. However, yes, you can use ATOR in those cases wherein you are finding that the credit turnover is lesser than interest and account is still considered as a standard asset. Yes, for that reason you can use ATR, but not the other way around, thinking that since the turnover is higher than the interest debit, we can ignore this account. No, because that those accounts might also contain such kind of transactions. In case of TCS banks, again the same setup, that is deposit, CC, OD account and services, inquiry and transaction. And for DLTL into that side. Then comes temporary overdraft, again widely misused one. Many of the time you find that very frequent basis the borrower is asking for TOD. Now one of the reporting under LFAR is that are there any instances of frequent overdrawal or a TOD by any set of borrowers? There are also, if you refer to the master direction on fraud, there are early warning signal. One of the signal is this, the temporary overdraft as well. Now this is required to be reviewed in very detailed form. Detailed form here I would mean that a person got a TOD. Now after getting TOD, what has he done? That is very important, because it should not happen that immediately there will be a debit and the funds will go to the some borrower's account, and whereby that account is saved. I'll show you a few of the case studies where actually this thing has happened. Now, what's the system support available? Once is ACLI option O, that is TOD. Again, it's a specific, ACI option O, that is TOD. ACTODM, that is TOD maintenance. That is again an account specific. However, there is a fantastic report, that is a printing or the report form report available into Finacle, that is TOD RP. Now when you go into the TOD RP, it will ask you the type of TOD. Now TOD, there are three types: single TOD, running TOD and ad hoc TOD. You can ignore single TOD. Single TOD means the TOD that is given to pass a single transaction. So that's perfectly fine. One of the transactions they may have power and they may sanction it as well. However, for ad hoc and running TOD, there will be a parallel limit into the customer's account, and that might be used for this kind of purposes. Moreover, in TOD RP, it will ask you the event, TOD event. What we need to do as an auditor is to review TOD MN, that is TOD manual event, into it. Once you generate report for ad hoc, that is first report, and once again you need to generate report for running with TOD MN event. Just generate report for entire year, identify the accounts as well as the dates and the amount. Once you do that, then you can keep it ready with you, and whenever you find an credit nearing to those dates or anything, you can review that part as well. Then comes again age-old practice of parking of default bills into office account and not into the limit account. In case of a devolvement of an LC, the amount that got crystallized is required to be parked into the limit account and not into the separate account or some office account. There is a reason to it, and that's why there is an RBI guideline. The reason is like this, that if you park the account in separate amount in separate office account or this separate account open for this, the overdrawal portion will not be computed properly, meaning thereby the amount is required to be debited to the limit account, assuming that the limit is already overdrawn, or amount limit is not overdrawn but nearing to overdrawal only. Once you debit the crystallization amount, the limit will go into an overdrawal position. So you need to review 90-day norm as well. What will happen is, if there is a separate account open, the borrower will have a parallel limit for that purpose, and it should not be allowed. And that is the reason RBI has categorically stated that default LCs and crystallization of amount invoke guarantees are required to be debited to limit account. Now, assuming that there are no limit, that the customer only got a non-fund based limit, only the LC or the BG limit, very rarely that is that can be given, or if that is given, then it is required to be debited to the current account of the customer. Now what happens that many of the time we ask the branch officials that how many LCs got devolved or how many bank guarantees got invoked. They'll say that there are no or there are none. We can take it as an MR later as well, that's not a problem. However, as an auditor, we always try and verify through the system. In that scenario, there is one of the option that is available into this one, that is through bill inquiry. One is inland bill inquiry and one is foreign bill inquiry, that is BI and FBI in Finacle, wherein you can select the bill status as K, that is delinking, and give a status date filter. Finacle 10x, the command is IBL. In case of TCS Bank, the same is handled through EXIM module. So please check this aspects, and if possible, generate the list of delinked bills and just see to it whether the same got debited to the limit account, that is first. Second one, if not, just redraft the entire account statement of the borrower with having debited this amount from the date of crystallization, and check whether overdrawn portion is properly computed and overdrawn number of days are also properly computed. Then comes multiple cursed IDs. Multiple cursed IDs to save the other account from becoming NPA. There are various instances wherein multiple cursed IDs have been opened, and in this scenario, what has happened is that one of the loan which is turning into NPA is in one custody, other loan is into other custody. However, the RBI has categorically mentioned that banks are required to have UCIC classification for all, that is unique customer identification code. Now RBI did got information from various banks as well as into during their audit that there are instances of multiple cursed IDs that is happening into the bank, and it is hampering these all issues. And hence there is another set of concepts that is UCIC, unique customer identification code, wherein all the cursed IDs are required to be mapped accounts with the cursed ID, or what a few of the banks have started doing is that they have started deleting the cursed ID or disabling the cursed ID and keeping only one cursed ID and marking that as UCIC. Now first and the foremost thing is that we need to understand this, whether bank has implemented UCIC in the entirety or not. Second one is that whether NP identification is based on UCIC or still on cursed ID. Third one is that to carry out a manual activity. Now manual activity here I mean is you have a list of NPA account. Now search the name of from the NPA account and with the few characters only, and just apply it onto the PA account listing, that is performing asset listing. Now if you find near to it that account or anything, you can just select that part and just review it for a later at a later point of time. However, do not apply VLOOKUP here, because when you see that there are multiple cursed IDs open, there will be some difference between the two names that is appearing, and hence do not apply VLOOKUP here. Now there is one more way of doing it through system, is that through ACS option, that is account selection. Now into that you can give a short name. If you want to find out multiple cursed ID through customer name, customer IDs, then you can use command called CUS, that is under the Finacle only. Then there is for different parameters, you can through different parameters you can review it through LAGI, that is loan account general inquiry, and in TCS banks you can go through customer management inquiry and search by name. Now these are few of the methods to verify if there are any multiple cursed ID or accounts into under the multiple cursed ID and belonging to the same customer. Now this is because of the reason that the asset class is required to be borrower wise and not the facility wise, and hence we need to ensure that whatever we are certifying as an as NPA are properly or in line with IRA guidelines. Then comes the circular. It's an old one. It has only one applicability, one part of applicability into 1920 case. It's encouraging formalization of MSME sector. Circular is dated 7th of February 18. Again got an addendum into June 6, 2018. In this part, there is a point number 2 into important points. Dues of GST registered MSMEs from 1st of January 2019. 180-day criterion to be aligned as per annexure to circular. Now, initially the MSME sector got, because of GST issue, MSME sector were finding it difficult to have a proper cash flow and kind of thing. Now, for that the circular was issued. Into that, at that point of time, they were given 180 days time for the repayment. Now, from 1st of January 2019, 180 days is required to be realigned to 90 days in a staggered manner. Now, refer to that circular, and you will find the entire table therein that by this time it should be 120, then 90, and kind of a thing, and it was to be realigned to 90-day norm. So just see to it that part, and whether proper NPA classification carried out into that case or not. Then comes the natural calamity issue. Master direction is issued by Reserve Bank of India for this point on 17th of October 2018. The relief measures are two parts, that is restructuring of existing loan and sanction of fresh loans. Now, point is this, that many of the time the system is not parameterized properly, and leading to identification of account as NPA, even though there is a relief that is given or sanctioned or to be shared with that person. Now, the other part is that at the time of restructuring, what is the system configuration that the bank has done? That's very important. Always ask for bank's internal policy as well as operational manual, how the thing should be handled into the system as well. What is the prescriptive guideline and how it is to be handled into the system as well. Now, whether NPA identification in such cases is manual or automated. Many of the systems have a flag wherein the accounts are ignored from identification of NPA, and that is done manually by the officers. Now, that part also we need to seek information. Information is also required to be sought from the center statutory auditor as well. So you can prepare a list of few of the points that you want to seek for. Once there is a meeting with SCA, this time I don't think so there will be any meeting. Whether there will be an audit or not, that is also a question mark, and lot of theories floating around in WhatsApp as well. But since nothing concrete has come up, we will not be discussing that part. So if there are any point, you can discuss with the center statutory auditor who will be auditing therein, and they will be also replying to that onto that side. So at least that will give you some of the hint that how you can design, or till what extent or point you will be designing your audit processes. Then comes the one-time restructuring of advance to MSME borrowers. The original circular of was 1st of January 2019. The revised this one got on February 11, 2020. That is the extension that is got. Eligibility is borrower is classified as MSME under MSME Act. Aggregate exposure FB or NFB up to 25 crores is on 1st of January 2020. The important point, sir, just asking whether everything is proper. Hello. Bishanji. Hitesh bhai. દીપેશભાઈ બરાબર સંભળાય છે અને બરાબર દેખાય છે ને, રાઈટ? I am assuming that no one is responding. Bishan bhai. Okay. In this case, it is a very important guideline that is required to be followed up. That is, borrower account was in default but is a standard asset as on 1st of January 2020, and it continues to be classified as standard asset till the date of implementation of restructuring. Now, the question here arises that when can we say that the restructuring got implemented? So first and the foremost thing is that it is to be the upper date or the final date is 31st of December 2020. Now, what are the conditions that are required to be fulfilled so that we can say that the restructuring is properly implemented? That is first part. Execution of all documents and agreements. Secondly, new capital structure is reflecting into the books of accounts. Now that is what is when you say that the restructuring is completed. Now point is that borrower was in default. That's perfectly fine. That's not an issue. But a borrower must be a standard asset, having a standard asset classification as on 1st of January 2020. And yes.
Yes, sir. Do you want anything from me?
Yeah, I just asked you everything is going on smoothly. That's what the confirmation I wanted.
Smoothly, sir. Say everything is smoothly. If something will happen, then will definitely come.
No. I was under an impression that if something goes wrong with my internet and I'll only be speaking and you won't be getting it. That's
nothing. Sir, you have to act like you have to act like a Salman Khan. So the camera is there, and you. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. So this point is that the borrower is NPA is a PA asset as on 1st of January 2020 and continues to be classified as standard asset till the date of implementation of restructuring. Right? जब तक ये conditions fulfill नहीं होती हैं, जब तक ये सब डॉक्यूमेंटेशन कैपिटल स्ट्रक्चर सब कुछ नहीं आता है, तब तक उसको स्टैंडर्ड रहना है, तो तब तक रीपेमेंट करना है. ऐसा नहीं कि हमने रिक्वेस्ट दे दिया कि मुझे वन टाइम रिस्ट्रक्चरिंग चाहिए तो बस हो गया, अभी आपके ऊपर है, मैं तो पेमेंट नहीं करने वाला हूँ. Right, it can't happen that way. In any case, if it is not it did not remain as a standard asset till the implementation, that facility is not available to the borrower, and hence the everything that is the classification will go in a normal way, and there won't be any restructuring under this scheme. In any case, once the account is turned in, the account that got turned into an NPA can have restructuring, but again it will go one notch down. Right, so it goes with the normal IRAC guideline, and that this is very important condition to be fulfilled at this point of time. Borrower is required to be registered under GST, except in those cases wherein the borrower is dealing in a product which is exempt from GST. Right, so that is only the thing. Which are the important points? Post restructuring NPA classification shall be as per IRAC guideline. Board approved policy is required. Adherence to all eligibility conditions, that is a must. NPA account can be restructured. However, extent guideline of IRAC on restructuring of NPA account will be applicable. For this, we need to refer to IRAC circular part B. Barring the cases wherein one-time restructuring is carried out, all other cases will follow the principle of downgrading or restructuring. Upgradation of such accounts subject to satisfactory performance during the specified period. Right. So that is what the restructuring guideline of RBI is there. This is the system support. E is for repayment detail. Y is for asset classification detail, and we can have a monthly MIS report as well. This is the reason to it, because if you want to verify any of the a person who is having an asset classification as performing asset on a particular day, it is very difficult to find out from Finacle on screen menu, and hence the report of that particular day should be reviewed. In case of TCS banks, we can go to the account master details for long inquiry, and again same way the MIS reports. Then comes the project loans. This is particular aspect wherein other than the financial reason, the account can also be marked as NPA. Now this is the DCCOs, that is date of commencement of commercial operations. Now there are various systems wherein these dates are not updated or not properly updated, or systems are not configured enough to ascertain accounts as NPA for these cases. Now there are projected DCCO dates, actual extended DCCO in system. Now if the system is not configured enough to mark project loan as NPA based on DCCO dates, then you need to do it manually. First review it, and I think no bank will be saying on their own that we don't have a system for this. However, for project loans, just first bifurcate them into an infra and non-infra, and then check the DCCO compliances into that loan. Now that is very important because if date is not correctly mentioned, or the account got restructured under because project is under process and there are some litigation, and then there are restructuring, and again that account is turning into an NPA, then the correctness of NPA in case of failed restructuring is also very important. And many of the systems do not classify that aspect properly as well. So it should not happen that the auditors are also finding it difficult and they'll be only reporting at the current date as an NPA date. No, in case of failed restructuring, the date will go way beyond the current date. Then comes the last point into this parameter side, that is moratorium due to COVID-19. It's a circular dated 27th of March 2020. Permission is granted to banks for moratorium for all type of loans for 3 months for loan outstanding as on 1st of March and installment due between 1st of March and 31st of May. Now understand this. This circular is not for delaying NPA identification. It only said that you can give a moratorium to the borrowers who are asking for. That is what is RBI said in the clarification as well. However, NPA identification will still be there for overdues before 1st of March. So installment to include principal as well as interest, bullet repayment, EMI, credit card dues. Now let's take an example. If an account is turning into an NPA due to non-collection of interest pertaining to March, the same will be ignored. Assuming that January, February, March, if that is overdue, then March, since it is a March, it will be ignored. So there will be only 60-day overdue because March is already shifted. Now, however, the problem is, if the issue is that if overdue is for December, January, and February, then this account will be marked as NPA. A lot of wrong theories going around on WhatsApp that no one can mark NPA during this period. So then nothing is mentioned of that sort, right? So let's the example is also there onto your screen. If 28th is the date not paid EMI for December, January, February, then account will be marked as NPA on March 28, 2020. Now, in that case, you might have got a few case laws. Yesterday, there was a case lodged in Mumbai High Court, and a few days before, there was in Delhi High Court, Yes Bank, and one of the borrower case. My personal belief and review of those things is that first and the foremost thing, it is applicable only to those borrowers, those banks, and particularly on those case only. So you can't do it. You can't say that it will be applicable to all. Secondly, even the arguments actually went into some other side. The guideline is pretty clear into the RBI side, right? And probably we may get an additional clarification from RBI as well. But however, this guideline as well as subsequent clarification to IBA issued by RBI is pretty clear onto that side, and there is no issue into this one. Borrowers are saying that we are finding it difficult to repay the earlier overdues, and hence we should get the benefit under this. And that is not possible. That is what his guidelines are as of now. We don't know whether the guideline will get changed or not. Banks have been permitted to defer recovery of interest applied onto working capital facility during the period 1st of March up to 31st of May. No relief is granted for NCBD and bill discounting. No relief is granted for investment held by banks. That is what the current guidelines are. There are few questions. Whether the option for moratorium is granted to all or with the consent. RBI categorically said that it has to be an option driven, not the all or none. Few of the banks have said that we will be giving benefit to everyone, and then those who, because in this period, let's say you have a moratorium, you don't have a moratorium for, there won't be any interest accretion. That's not the case. Interest will be there for an extended period as well. So many of those who have the funds will not go with this one, right? So in that scenario, few of the banks said that we'll be giving it to everyone. Those who do not wish to have, they can opt out of this one. In few of the banks, they said they need to opt in for this one, and few of the banks said that you need to specifically request us that we would like to have this facility. Now the problem lies here is these are all now, or whatever is this one that is going to be, will be through an alternative channel, right? So you won't have a request letter because nobody is going to go to the bank to deliver a letter for this one, right? So in that scenario, you need a confirmation from technical team as well, who is handling that particular aspect, that whether you have got this particular confirmation from the borrower or not. So please obtain that confirmation and then review the this process. The same issue that the restructuring part, how to differentiate such moratorium extension setup into the system with other restructuring. This time it is going to be a Herculean task. Let's hope for the best. With this, I have completed the parameters. Sir, I'll take 5 to 10 minutes more, and then we'll go with the question and answer.
Done, sir. Done.
Yeah. So this is the first case study. There are around 7 case studies. In first case, it is like this way, that the borrower was having 4 loan accounts. The accounts, there were no repayment that was going on into the account. There was all the things that were getting overdue, installment as well as interest. Now what has happened was that whatever was the overdue amount, of that amount, the bank sanctioned a new 4 loans. They disbursed 4 new loans, and entire loan proceeds went into the repayment of an earlier loan. Now in that scenario, it is not permitted. Now we found out that entire source is from a new loan only. Now you can't sanction a new loan to repay the old loan. That is what categorically RBI has also stated. And in that case, we reported accordingly that these accounts are required to be marked as NPA, since this credit cannot be considered. Now in the second case, the credit is originating from another loan granted to other customer. This is the TOD case. Now M Private Limited is having a current account. M Private Limited current account got a TOD of 10 lakh of rupees. Now out of that TOD, once the TOD was granted, immediately after that, the fund moved from M Private Limited to the borrower account. Now borrower account was turning into an NPA, that is nearing to 90 days. Now because of that credit, that account was saved and account was into the credit balance, or within the limit. Now what has happened is the borrower account was not identified as an NPA, and M Private Limited was not required to be classified as NPA because it was having a TOD up to 22nd of March. So whatever amount that was overdue into the M Private Limited account, that was about 9 days overdue, that is 22nd March to 31st of March only. So that account was also not turned into an NPA. So both ways there was a win-win situation. Please check that any of the TODs sanctioned during month of March, and what has happened with those TODs. That is very important. Please check those things, and probably you may find few of the cases like this way. Now just see this screen. Now this has this classic case wherein there was a transfer from current account to CC account. Within the span of few minutes, about 39 crores were transferred and retransferred back, and the balance is the same, right? Now in this scenario, the customer got credit of about 39 crore in 2-3 minutes. Customer was having some amount into account, or someone from somewhere he got some money, and there was a debit to current account, credit to CC account, debit to CC current card, kind of the way the transactions were going on. Please review such kind of cases if you happen to find out, and just see to it what might be the wrong, what might be the case that is without any visible economic benefit why this such of transactions were carried out. Then comes the case study 4, that is recovery through cash deposit. Now the moment the cash comes in, there is a loss of audit trail. Now it becomes extremely difficult to, even though you are 100% sure that this cash is not from source of business, but you find that you cannot prove that beyond certain point. Now in this case, there was a quarterly identification way back. This bank was following the quarterly identification. Interest amount was 745, which was getting overdue, and at the end of the quarter, June, there was an account was turning into an NPA. During the month of July, that is before the balance sheet finalization, there was an entire recovery of an amount that was 7,45,090. Now 90 was a charge reversal, meaning there was 745 was the recovery. Now it was very difficult to digest that account which was not funding anything into this, not giving him any money, got suddenly a 6 lakh rupees. So we started digging more into this one, and we found that the customer's current account got a TOD of 6 lakhs on 10th of July. With that TOD, he withdrew the cash of 6 lakh, and immediately he deposited 6 lakh rupees of cash into the CC account. Now that actually gave us an entire chain of action, and eventually this account was turned into an NPA only by ignoring this amount. Now this was also a classic case, same way, 3 CC accounts, they got credit of about 48 lakh, that too after closure of cash counter at 501. This is on an entire timeline. Whereas the moment they deposited 48 lakh, it was there were 2 current account customers who were ready to withdraw 48 lakhs, and then at the end of the day, net there was no balance into the teller account, even after there were 48 lakh transactions. Now, when we saw that maybe there may be a customer who are in need of the fund and CC account might have deposited and they might have withdrawn. So, however, when we went into the current account, we found that the current account was also not having any balance, and actually they got a TOD of 24 lakh and 25 lakh on 30th of March. Now, in that scenario, the issue was that it was a clear case of saving of an account, and eventually all three accounts became NPA only by ignoring these cases. This was a classic case wherein agricultural loan was sanctioned and disbursed. Now, all the documents and everything was perfect. There was no issue with agriculture loan. The issue that we found was with respect to the utilization of fund. The moment the disbursement was made, the majority of the portion went into the real estate business of the customer, and rest of the amount went for an high purchase of an high-end car. So the payment was made to a dealer of a car dealing in Audi or BMW or Mercedes. Now, this is a clear case of an non-utilization of fund when compared with the purpose of it. Now, there are various benefits that the customer is getting with agricultural loan, or those who are farmers or those who have track of land. That's a lower rate of interest, longer time period for NP identification. Probably they may get a benefit of political scheme, because nowadays it's a fashion. Whenever a party goes into an election mode, they simply announce a loan waiver. So they may get in this one as well. Now, in such scenario, if you observe that, if you find such kind of thing, my only request is just classify this as a commercial loan instead of an agricultural loan, and can get need to be realigned to the IRA normal identification period and rate of interest as well. Now, this is perennial case in agriculture loan, even export packing credit and packing credit in foreign currency kind of thing. It becomes extremely important for auditor to review utilization of funds in this case as well. Now, this was again a classic case of error into the system, which posed, or rather, it had a catastrophic impact on the financials. Now, this case was like this way, that there was a consortium account with a common security value of about 12,500 crores. The bank's share was about 10% into the security, which was that is into this entire loan, and attributable portion was 1250 crores. Now, what happened was this account was turning into an this account turned into an NPA in particular quarter. However, in system way back it was updated, the security value was updated as 12,500 crore instead of 1250 crore. Reason being, entire security value got updated into the system. Now, when the account turned into an NPA, system computed provisioning by considering entire portion as secured, whereas this loan was about only 48 or 49% secured only. Now, but since it was updated as 12,500 crore as security, it showed as 100% secured, and there was no provision or accelerated provision onto the unsecured portion side. Now, when the auditor found out when this amount got changed, there was a huge amount that impacted the profit and loss and the provisioning side. So in that scenario, as an auditor, what we need to do is we need to check the security amount that is updated into the system for consortium cases or cases wherein there is a common security. There may be a single security and there may be a multiple loan against that. So into that loan, what is the security that is attributable? Against this one, what is it is attributable? If it is an account-wise security, that is updated. So this were the points that I was referring to, that I will be discussing two parts. Now, this entire thing next is for reference material. You can just refer that. I have mentioned in detail only. That is on revenue leakage CBS aspect, foreign exchange CBS aspects, that is LFAR points, and what can be done through that. Same way is for office accounts. And the last part is I have tried and compiled list of menu codes in Finacle and TCS Bank against LFAR requirement as well as tax audit requirement. So cash, then you will have balance with RBI, SBI, what to verify, source from where to verify. Same way advances, there are 12 points in advances, then stationery, suspense accounts, sundry accounts, inter-branch accounts. Then I have mentioned few of the reports which are important ones, that is exception report and what to verify into an exception report, irregularity report. Then these are a few of the reports which are very specific ones. You may not find those into all the banks. So that is accounts where interest code is 0 or interest collection flag asset is no. However, for this, I would suggest a few of the reports that we should be having with us. That is first report containing all advanced accounts with limits. And that is very important and that is very basic report. We need to have that for the selection of sample. And once we have that, we can have multiple ways of sample from based on type of product, overdue amount or a newer loan, in amount, descending order into the amount, ascending order into the amount, kind of the thing. Then comes the report on probable NPA, health code account, watch list account, special mention account, by whatever name called. This report are very important. Have a quarter end reports as well, in between the period report as well. Do not go only with the quarter end reports. Then comes report on NPA account. Now in this scenario, in this particular case, I would request two reports. These are required. First, obtain the NPA report as on 31st of March 2020, which in any case we will be having it. But also ask for NPA report of 31st of March 2019 as well. Now, reason being this is that there have been various complaints that NPA date got changed as compared to the previous year. So apply VLOOKUP into this one, in two of the reports, and get ascertain, are there any cases? If so, what are the reason for it? There is only probable reason that I find is that borrower paid the amount in entirety, overdue amount, and the account got upgraded. Later on, he again defaulted and he got his account got downgraded as an NPA. Now in that scenario, that's perfectly fine. The date change is acceptable. But other than those, if there are any changes or any issue with the date, please report such kind of thing. This may happen because of erroneous entry that got into the account and got reversed. In that scenario, if the erroneous entry amount is in excess of the overdue amount, then also this entire account will turn into PA, and at the time of reversal, they will be required to put through TOD, and by that they will be transferring the amount. That in that scenario also you need to give an MOC to reinstate the date, plus whatever is the interest that is classified as income because of the upgradation, that is also required to be reversed once again. So this is what is very important on NPA report. Now, sir, we can have questions.
So
Just
I'll
a minute, I have to
start.
stop my share.
Yeah. The first question, please guide on DCCO norms on infrastructure project loan. In case of project loan, my moratorium expired. It has been extended one time, but after expiry of the same, borrower had started repayment, but BU permission of same not received. They applied for same. In that case, is account NPA or not?
Sir, I need to check the case as IRAC guideline. But in case of a DCCO, if DCCO is not achieved, that is also one of the event for marking the account as NPA. That is what the queries have said that as well, right? However, I need to check the exact case because these are project loans are very specific cases and which requires case-to-case information as well as IRAC information. So that's why. Hello.
Yes, no problem. You're go ahead.
Yeah, so for that, I would only say that max says that if DCCO is not achieved, then also this account can be termed as NPA, even though there is a repayment that is going on. However, I need a specific case as well as this to review, and then only I can answer. However, Hitesh can add up if something is there into it.
I did discuss this question was from CA Mayur Moda, and I did discuss the same with him also. That ultimately we'll have to go by the ultimately the most important is the repayment, whether and then in his particular case what he has done is that yes, the repayment is there. However, the question is about the exactly whether if in particular case of BU permission, that is a building use permission. So sometimes we'll have to check from the other side of the table also, that by merely not sometimes we are not getting the BU permission only because some circumstances which are beyond the control of the builder also in that case.
Yeah.
But my request to you would be that Bishan bhai, let us restrict the questions to the for the topic for the day, because which
Yeah.
it is very important. And I think I have forwarded one question of one of the
Since you were not there actually, so I was not able to know which are the relevant, but someone has asked on the group, so that's what I post. But since you are here now, you can choose and pick, sir. Please go ahead.
Bishan bhai, the only question is that in case of SBI, office account ledgers are not able to see as per the officials. Sorry, office accounts ledgers we are not able to see as per the official. Is there any way to check entries in office accounts which Kuntal bhai is doing?
Yeah, you can go to BGL account and at least check on screen. The problem is with the printing of certain set of office accounts, right, wherein it is not allowed in SBI system. Few of the accounts are not possible to be printed. Few of the accounts it can be printed. The problem with SBI, that is TCS banks, is that it gives very limited access to few of the accounts. First and the foremost thing, just check with your login ID, that is auditor login ID. If it is not feasible, the last resort is available to go with the manager, go to the BGL, branch general ledger setup, and verify. If that is also not possible, then it becomes extremely difficult. What you can do is max is that you can have a list of transaction, that is journal entry listing that is coming up, right? And in that scenario we can check, or outstanding entries we can have it through the report that is coming up, that is audit BGL. That is a report that is coming up, but that will give only outstanding entries. So if audit of office account ledgers are not possible, then from borrower account, if any credit is coming up, we can just seek information onto that from which source the credit is coming up. That is what I can submit.
Perfect. The second question from the member is how to verify the manipulation in the sanction limit where change in the account limit report is not available for the verification.
Sir, in that scenario, we can check on the random basis for the accounts that are there with us, right? One of the major sources is that the account which is showing some kind of stress, we should be verifying those in a sample basis, right? If the report is not available, we need to only go with this one. However, keep trying with bank official to check what these kind of reports are available within the system, which is customized one to the bank, as well as push reports. But otherwise, that's the only sample ACL HM we can use in Finacle and TCS banks. There is a report that is coming up on daily basis. Most of the banks, they have configured this one.
Okay. One more question is about the temporary OD, office account use, etc. Temporary OD, then how we can define the NPA such account as per your case study number 2, dates not exceeding 90 days.
Okay, now in that scenario, sir, the NPA, if it is a clear-cut case, it need not necessarily to be viewed in a watertight compartment. In this case, what has happened was that 6 lakh rupees was of a TOD only and used for this one. That was not permitted, because you cannot give a new loan to repay the other loan and then say that please do not apply this NPA parameter. You need to simply ignore this part, and you need to simply say that this credit is not genuine one, and you can give your detailed explanation and give an MOC whereby system identified PA listing can be overridden with the NPA. That's pretty much possible. So I think you don't need to worry about that. You need to just issue MOC for that with your explanation. And if you have a detailed explanation, even Central Statutory Auditor will also not touch upon that part in overriding that part.
Sir, one more question is about that, whether you can please throw some more light on the accounts becoming NPA with lower turnover in the account.
See, lower turnover of account, that is what I have said, that what happens is with lower turnover accounts, these are all identifiers that lower turnover will have a lower turnover in debit as well. right? Because they might have used the limit earlier and they are now carrying on with this one limit that is going on. In that scenario, what can we do is this, that from various reports, that is, let's say advances report, you can find that what's the credit turnover into that particular account, and then select that as a sample. Now in that scenario, you may find a few cases where even the lower credit is also not a genuine credit, and that credit is also coming up from something else which is not the eligible ones or not from the business side. But it again all
Yes.
became very important. Yeah, sorry sir.
No, no. Yes sir, go ahead please.
It all goes with this thing that how do you identify or how do you classify the things, right? That's what is very important, that you may take a sample in a such a way that these accounts might have this one. So again, that goes on an assessment and actual cases.
Right sir. And the last question is from the one of the member, that since the Canara Bank is using the FlexCube software, whether you can advise on various command used for the audit.
Yeah. The detailed background material that is shared by Bishan Bhai is also containing I think 38-39 pages write-up onto all the system, which includes the FlexCube command as well. I am happy to share that this particular write-up is part of concurrent audit manual issued by IASB of ICAI, as well as 1819 guidance note on statutory bank branch audit as well.
Right sir, that's all from our side.
Okay.
Bishan Bhai?
Yes, sir. Sir, with the knowledge force from your side, this is going to be a great beginning for the bank branch audit season for all of us. It was indeed a great learning experience on behalf of Ahmedabad branch and all other branches of Gujarat, that is Anand, Bhavnagar, Bhuj, Gandhidham, Jamnagar and Rajkot. We all are thankful to you for coming on this platform and deliberating on the subject. Hitesh Bhai, on behalf of all the branches, we also thankful to you, sir. And I am sincerely thankful to all the chairmen of the branches that they have joined us for this webinar series. Sir, this is going to be a beginning, as I said, and we all are fully equipped. So I wish all the participants a great bank branch audit season in this lockdown, where we all are unlocked with the mindset and with the knowledge. Thank you very much, Kuntal.